Hey there, it's Pete over at the Sampleist, and today we are checking out the AIR Studios Reverb plugin from Spitfire Audio. Spitfire Audio and AIR Studios go hand in hand with their long association of producing outstanding industry standard libraries together. From the newly revamped Symphony Series to Hans Zimmer Strings, Lyndhurst Hall at AIR Studios produces that quintessential movie score sound. Now the AIR Studios Reverb plugin allows us to not only sculpt that sound to our heart's content, but also add non-Lyndhurst Hall libraries to that space. Through 67,000 impulse responses, virtual positioning technology, and 8 microphone signals, the customization is endless. You can even select the material of the canopy. This convolution reverb not only sounds superb, it brings the legendary AIR Studios Lyndhurst Hall into your DAW. The AIR Studios Reverb plugin downloads at 9.36 gigabytes and is its own standalone plugin. It sells for £239 on intro offer and £299 thereafter. In this video, we're going to check out the AIR Studios Reverb plugin from the viewpoint of a composer. So we are going to look at the different features, and there are some groundbreaking features going on within this plugin, but also we're going to talk about real-world applications. So I have thrown this into a composition where I've used the AIR Studios Reverb plugin, so we can look at audio performance, we can hear how it sounds, and how easy is it to use. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Spitfire Audio for sending over the AIR Studios Reverb plugin so we can make this video. Of course, we get the libraries and the plugins in this case for free. However, it does not cloud our thoughts, ideas, or judgments on anything that we feature in our videos. And at this point, I would like to say, if you've not done so, please hit the subscribe button, because we do all of this for free. We don't have any different advertising deals or any affiliate links. It is just our opinions of these products. So I'm really excited about the AIR Studios Reverb plugin, because I use Spitfire audio libraries in 95% of everything that I do, and the ability to have Lyndhurst Hall in the palm of your hand in your DAW is just fantastic. So without further ado, let's check out the plugin. And here we have AIR Studios Reverb from Spitfire Audio loaded up directly in Nuendo. I've decided to present this video in DAW view because I'm going to be switching windows and I've got some instrumental examples to play you. So I thought this would make sense. And I want to look at the features, but I'm not going to go into huge amounts of depth. So check out the Paul Thompson Spitfire video when they launched. That was absolutely incredible. It really drills down what this can do. But I'm going to look at it from the composer viewpoint. And as a composer, I'm going to sort of be picking out different things and what's really important. And more importantly, I want to hear how can this plugin enhance my sounds and productions. So let's start off with some Hans Zimmer Strings, and we have some violins, and they sound like this. They sound absolutely gorgeous. If I turn off the plugin, it's going to sound like this. Okay, so it's quieter, it's obviously dry because that's how I've set the instruments, and it really shows the convolution reverb at work. And a convolution reverb essentially digitally recreates the room space by using recordings. So these are the impulse responses. Okay, so that's again with the plugin turned on. So let's just have a quick look at the plugin. You can adjust the hall layout, which is really, really interesting. So you're going to see it reverses or changes there. Wonderful. I'm going to move that back. You can adjust the canopy height as well. So just for argument's sake, if we have a lower canopy, the nuance of the sound will change. We've got a high canopy. And then, of course, we can change the material as well. So we've got wood. So these are very slight changes, but it shows the level of control you have. So I've adjusted the dampening there. I'm going to go back to the presets. Now, I'm actually using a string preset, but depending on the instrument you're using, you have different categories. We've got brass guitars, synths, etc. We've got overall the hall as well, if you just want to use the hall sounds. I'm going to go for high strings again. And, oh, sorry, no, this was actually hall sound, I believe. Yeah, cathedral strings. Okay. So we've got these at the top here. Now down here, this is where the placement technology comes into play. So I'm imagining my string players are there. But if I want to, I can move them. And the plugin will calculate. I can move them over here, and the plugin will calculate again. So that's the virtual instrument placement technology. I believe it's called that. So I've done that off the top of my head there. So let's say you choose brass. I've got a tuba solo. There's my tuba, which is where I'd expect it to be in the room. If I went for French horns, I'll set these over on the over there. So you get a visual diagram of where everything is. So we've got some percussion. And again, you can move it anywhere you want, which is very, very interesting. So if I go for keys, got a piano. Okay, so if I've got that going on here, I can move it over there. And it's very, very reactive, which is very, very good. And you can save your own presets as well, and you can filter by character. But I'm just going to go back to the hall and go back to our cathedral strings. So that takes care of the virtual instrument placement. There we go. And then we got the different mics. So we've got tree, we've got outrigger. So I'm just going to turn these on so we can see what they're called. Got a head mic, got ambient. Okay, we've got two galleries. I'm just going to do my little thing. Yeah, so backs, canopy, yeah, and our two gallery mics. I've had to, it's quite a good size GUI, but for very good reason, because we've got all these controls on one page. But I've had to zoom out quite a lot, so yeah, had to zoom in there. So again, I'm just going to reload cathedral strings, because that's what we're using. There we go. And we can see we've got the tree, the outriggers, and the ambient mics. Okay, lovely. So simply, just like any other mic mix, you control this using different mics. So if I just want to use the head mic, and I've turned that up quite a lot. Bring it down, and let's say I want to combine it with a gallery mic. Sounds beautiful. And when you highlight the mics, you can see they appear in the sort of setup diagram, like the room diagram. So you know exactly which mics you're controlling or what kind of sound you expect to hear. So you've got all that mic control going on. Now you've got these different pages where you can further shape your sound. It starts to drill down and gets very, very detailed here. The most important thing for me as a composer is having these presets is a great place to start. EQing reverb is absolutely vital. And I remember when I was learning how to use reverbs correctly, like adding an EQ seemed to be quite alien. And the reverb I was actually using there when I was learning didn't have its own built-in EQ. This one does. A lot of other reverbs do, but this is really, really important stuff, because the more reverb you add, the more frequencies are going to build up, and you need to clean those frequencies up. So effectively, you can get a lot of mud and a lot of sort of low-end build-up, for example, or too many high frequencies. And the fact you can cut these in the plugin is really, really important. So that's really, really good. So as a composer, that's a tick, tick. And then you got your standard input, reverb, output controls. So again, more control about how much you're going to have. You can adjust the dry wet mix, for example, which again is very, very important. But for me, having a plugin and then having the all the control you've got, the virtual instrument placement, the different mics, and you've got these factory presets to start off with, really, really helps. So I did say it was going to be a quick overview, because really that's what I'd like to do. Otherwise the video, you can really, really drill down and it can take a very, very long time to go through every little nuance. But as a composer, I'm thinking, great, I can load it up. I've got these customization options. I've got these presets to start off with. I can move my instruments around the room where I want to, and I can dial in the different levels of reverb using different microphones. And I've got my input and output. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. So let's check out some instrument examples. This section of the video for me is the most important, because I'm really happy with the plugin. Got lots of features, 67,000 impulse responses, can really customize it, and it's really easy to use. Absolutely love it. But how is it going to make my compositions sound better? What's it going to do to the instruments that I use day in, day out, and just enhance them? Because as a composer, that's what I need to know. Now, I've got some instrumental examples, and I did use the Hans Zimmer Strings, the violins, in the first section of the video, and you can hear they sound absolutely gorgeous. And let's talk about how I set that up. So if I load up the instrument, it's really important that using the mic mixes, you make everything as close as possible to take out the existing room sound. Even though this was recorded at AIR Lyndhurst, I just want to get it as dry as possible. So I'm using the close mix, and if I disable the reverb, it does sound like this. And then with. So we can hear the convolution reverb at play there. All of the other instruments, which I'm just going to do a before after, I've made as dry as possible. So if I go into the symphonic horns, I'm using the A6 horns, and it's the longs, and you can see I'm using just the close mic. Sounds like this. Okay, and with the plugin in view, you can see I've just used, it's actually a horn solo mellow preset. Does sound great, absolutely love it. And then we've got the solo strings using the cello. So I'm going to go before first. So again, I've used a close mic only. And if I just turn off the reverb. Now you've got to use the CC21 for vibrato. Otherwise, when you load it out the box, it sounds like this. And then if I use modulation as well, I'll keep the expression at the top. Okay, and it is pre-panned as well. Let's add the reverb. And I'll show the plugin, and I'm using the cello solo. Beautiful. I was a bit over the top with the vibrato there at some points, but yeah, really transforms the sound. So without the reverb. With the reverb. Gorgeous. The next one is the Olafur toolkit, the felt piano. I use this all the time, and I've used a distant piano preset. You can see at the top, and I've done nothing else to it. Of course, I've made the piano as dry as possible, and it does show if I bring up the instrument as well. That obviously you don't get loads of different mic options. So if I just turn off the plugin. And then we'll add the plugin, and it should sound beautiful and spacey. Sounds gorgeous, doesn't it? And then the last one is the British toolkit. So I thought I'd go for something a little bit different, and I'm just going to load up the plugin so you can see what I'm using there. So I'm just using the hall sound. Go turn that up a little bit. Really, really straightforward. And of course, without the reverb, it sounds like this. and it is velocity based. Now, I was playing around with this. I'm going to put the reverb on. Again, I think it just sounds amazing using just the hall sound. Just for a bit of fun, I did play the piano as well. It's a bit unpredictable, but it does sound very, very cool. So I was going to bring these two up. But again, you can hear there's two different presets of reverb going on. It's beautiful stuff. And there we have it. So that is the reverb on some single instruments. And of course, you've got the added bonus, which I'm not going to show you, but you can get any instrument from any other developer into AIR Lyndhurst Hall as well, which is fantastic. But this is a Spitfire centered video. But we are going to move on to a composition where I have done just that. I wanted to show it off in a piece of music that shows real world composing. As in, you might use different developers, obviously different size, not just single tracks or a couple of tracks. I think there's about 70 tracks in this piece. And you can just see how I would use this in a proper composition or a real world scenario. So without further ado, let's check out the composition. And that was our composition. Eagle-eye viewers may recognise that one from the Abbey Road Orchestra percussion videos that I made last year, and I just felt this was a really, really good vehicle to show off a real-world application of the AIR Studios Reverb. My reason being is that it's a mid-sized composition, so we can check out the audio performance, and I'm using a combination of Spitfire audio libraries and non-Spitfire audio libraries. This is a Spitfire audio centered video, so I'm not going to discuss any other libraries that I use, but anything else I try to make as clean and close as possible. But I've also combined the Spitfire symphonic range, and then I've used Hans Zimmer Strings, which is a combination I use all the time. I've used Colossus as well, because Colossus doesn't have microphone positions or mixes. It uses a reverb dial, and it obviously has different ensemble size, so I thought it was quite interesting to use. If I just scroll down, you can see that I've used the symphonic brass. I've used the contemporary drama toolkit, so we've got some sound design going on. And then I've got all of this high and low percussion with the Hans Zimmer percussion, Easter Island hits, which I use everywhere. And I've also used the organ, the symphonic organ from Spitfire. And then I've added choirs, we got synths, we got sub bass, we got different bits of sound design, and then yeah, a couple of other Brahms, for example, different things going on. So that is typically what we would do as composers, and this will show everything being put into the AIR Studios Reverb plugin. I'm not going to talk about how I put the piece together, because it's not that kind of video, but we're going to talk about how we set it up. I've got to do a little disclaimer, because when I record the sound from Nuendo, I have to use a different audio driver, so you may see the audio performance jumping around a little bit. So I'm just going to play the start, and you'll notice that will spike and then it will settle down. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. So you could see there's a little spike. I don't want anyone to feel that is the Spitfire Audio Reverb plugin doing that, because it really isn't. And I'm going to show a comparison in a little bit using my regular Apollo Twin driver, and the performance is absolutely sublime. So let's jump into, first of all, the instrument. So I'll show you what I did where possible. So I've loaded up it is actually the old interface. So this is the violin harmonics, and you can see that I've just done a quick mix. I've made everything as close as I can. Lovely. If I go into Colossus, because there aren't any mic mixes, click on the effects, I've brought the reverb right down. And then I've done this for every single instrument. So of course, when you're composing, that is not really a problem to do as you go. I had to go through every track sequentially to adjust the mic mixes. So for example, I've just used the first close mic on the Abbey Road Orchestra plugin. It does make sense. So obviously, when I'm actually recording and composing, I'll just, like I say, do that as I go. I may set up a template to use these instruments specifically with the AIR Studios Reverb plugin. But it didn't take me long. I reckon it took me about 15 minutes. And then, of course, if I go into the mixer, now I'm not going to name any other plugins that I've used, but if I go onto the effects channel, you'll notice the AIR Studios plugin is happily on there. And I've generally used the Hall because I'm doing this as big global sections. I haven't really used, you know, a specific French horn setting or a specific synth setting, or the punchy drum settings I did try and use, but across the entire range of drums it didn't sort of quite fit. So I'd use those on an instrument by instrument basis, but as a sort of global reverb, that's how I've done it. And as I've said, I'm not going to mention any other plugins, but I do have some go-to plugins. And then I've got my absolutely bonkers master chain, which I use purposely for the sake of making these videos. So it's a really quick, bright, instant mix. I do use some smart plugins and it just makes everything fit beautifully. You'll notice as well that I brought the overall volume down. So normally, if it's going for delivery, it would be really quite high up. So let's go to the end section. So you can see it's not hovering around the -1 that I normally prepare for delivery. I've brought it down by 10 dB. The reason is when we inflate the videos to go onto YouTube, I don't want the composition to be squished. And we do that for all our videos anyway. But specifically, because we're actually in the DAW and looking at meters and all this kind of stuff, I thought I would mention that. So that is the setup. Every instrument as dry as possible. And then all of the groups have a effects group, and we have our EQ as well and compression. Now, the way I've always composed, well, actually, it's not the way I've always did it. I used to load every instrument at 0 dB, and then I'd adjust them up and down. So sometimes you'd be above 0 dB. Then, of course, having gained more experience and understood the correct way to do it, and the fact there is a massive range of volume differences amongst different libraries, I actually set all my instruments start off at -15 dB, and then I use plugins to inflate it when I need to towards the end. So it just means I've got so much audio headroom. So that's why my faders are like that. Now, if I just isolate sections, you're going to hear the plugin in action. So let's just go for the shorts here. I think this sounds stunning. I'm just going to do that again so we don't hear the very start with the little audio pop. Then, of course, you've got the decay, and it sounds fantastic. Now, if I combine that with, let's say, the long strings. We have that consistency of sound. So everything is in AIR Studios. And it sounds awesome. Okay, and that's with the Symphony Brass. So if I just go a bit further down, we've got some sound design brass libraries which are non-Spitfire. And this is the big deal for me. We can put these libraries now into AIR Studios as well. We have that consistent sound. Now, I'm just going to add the sub bass and then the percussion. So the percussion, you can see I've made up of Spitfire audio instruments and some non-Spitfire audio instruments. Now, if I play these just Spitfire audio, we'll say, so I'm going to take out that one. I'm going to take out that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Okay, and then, so this is just the Spitfire audio libraries. And again, these are all close mic'd. And then if I just take that off. So that's in context. Okay, and that is all of the percussion together. Now, of course, there was a little choke there, because I didn't play the sample from the start, so don't worry about that. But can you hear how everything just sounds consistently AIR Studios? And it sounds really uniform. So we've got the synth section here. Gonna add the organs. Lovely. And let's say we add the contemporary drama toolkit. It just sounds amazing. And then going into the contemporary drama toolkit chug with the other synths. I just love how that sounds. So it's that consistency of reverb and room space, which is, you know, the real big point for me. And of course, because I use a lot of Spitfire audio libraries, the ability to put everything into AIR Studios. So again, with the voices, if I just solo these off, I did use a creative reverb, but I've turned that off. So this is just the AIR Studios Reverb plugin. It all sounds really, really funny when you isolate it, but if I do that in context, you can hear it, it's in the background, but you don't hear that sort of interesting programming I've done. It is actually much better here. Yeah, so again, in context. Yeah, it's very, very cool stuff. So, personally, for me, I think it works beautifully. And to make that transition from using Spitfire audio libraries to creating templates and projects where everything is as close mic'd as I possibly can make it, so I'm taking out as much room sound, and then using the AIR Studios Reverb plugin isn't really a big deal for me. And I like having different sounds. So when I make albums or do different projects to different clients, I think having a signature sound is one thing, but having the ability to change what you're doing is really, really important. So to me, this adds another string to my bow. And yeah, I am going to be deleting all the information and saving this as a template for epic orchestral hybrid writing. I might add some more instruments as well, because like I say, I've made everything close mic'd. I've done the hard work already. So yeah, I think it does sound fantastic. Now, I did say I was going to talk about audio performance. So the end of the track, I'm just going to go to 1-1. I'm going to use that as an example. Now, I'm using Nuendo. And to get the sound from Nuendo into OBS to make these videos, like I say, I have to use a different audio driver. So I'm using Voicemeeter. I know there are lots of other different ways. I have used Restream, for example. For some reason, I can't get it directly into OBS. So yeah, I'm using a Voicemeeter audio driver at 512 buffer rate. And I'll press play at this last section and you can see what's going on. But it's these little spikes that happen when I start and stop, which are really, really quite annoying, but it will even out. So let's just press play. Okay, so we could see it was sort of like bubbling and hovering over here. When it's idle, we've got this going on. And if I change instrument, maybe that will settle down a little bit. It's very strange how it gets calculated. Now, my system is a Ryzen 7900X, so it is a powerful processor, and it uses 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. And not that you need to know my graphics card, but it's a Radeon 7900 XT, which some people think you can offload some of the audio performance onto your GPU. I'm not entirely sure about that. I did look into it a little bit, but it's not something that I've done, so GPUs are irrelevant. But I also use an Apollo Twin. Now, you're not going to be able to hear the audio because OBS won't pick it up. But if I just switch to the my usual audio, so yeah, there we go, we're on. Now if I press play, because I'm going to do two things really, really quickly. I'm just going to press play and hit F12. You're going to see the audio information now. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. However, my buffer rate is actually really, really high. I just had to do a really quick edit there because the voice meter driver crashed when I changed the buffer size. But we can see here, again, we're on the Apollo Twin and we're on 512. So I'll just quickly close that and let's just press play and see what it's like. Yeah, so you can see that the spikes, they calm down a little bit after I initially press play. It's something to do with the voice meter plugin, but the actual plugin doesn't eat up your CPU. That's the point I'm making. And of course, when I compose, I actually do compose. I'm not going to change it now because it'll crash again, but I do compose at a much higher buffer rate because the Apollo Twin has zero latency input going on. And yeah, it's a very, very cool device. So that's how I do it, but it's just showing in a medium-sized project, it isn't a CPU beast. And of course, if you do use Nuendo or Cubase, you do also have the so SEO guard you can adjust if you need to. So yeah, there's loads of headroom, but there's loads of sort of cool ways to sort out the audio. But there we go. That is the AIR Studios Reverb in situ in a piece of music, and yeah, I'm really, really impressed with its performance. It isn't CPU hungry compared to my usual plugin that I use. I don't see much of a difference, and of course, because I'm not naming plugins, I'm not doing a direct comparison, but I did read somewhere that someone or quite a few people have asked to see it in a fully blown piece of music. So there we go. Hopefully that has helped you see what it's like in a real world composition. It's now time for my closing thoughts about the AIR Studios Reverb plugin. And I've said all along, this video is from the composer's viewpoint. Now, I'm in a situation where the majority of the piece of music I make use Spitfire audio libraries in some shape or form. And for a very, very long time, I've wanted to be able to take outside libraries or Spitfire audio libraries that are not in AIR Lyndhurst and put them in that room. And now we can. And I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I'm aware there are other plugins which have impulse responses from AIR Lyndhurst. However, the AIR Studios Reverb plugin is incredibly deep. There are 67,000 impulse responses. But it's not just about the amount, because you can get the room sound with fewer impulse responses, but it's all about the hall control. So you can control the layout, the canopy height, the canopy material, the dampening. And then you've got your virtual positioning technology, so you can move your performers anywhere into that hall. Then you've got the mixing technique, so it's using various different microphones, and you can adjust and sculpt your sound the way you want to. Using the source, you can modify the performer's radiation in the room. I mean, that is detail. Where are they facing? What are they doing? And then the shape, augment the reverb at various points in its overall decay time. We're just talking about an unparalleled level of control. But while all that sounds impressive, and the plugin itself is very, very well designed and intuitive and simple to use. I mean, once I downloaded it, I was using it freely, really, really simply. Just getting good sounds using the presets, for example, but then tweaking it to your heart's content is really where it's at. So in real world usage, using it in a composition where I'm using non-Spitfire libraries and I'm putting those into AIR Lyndhurst as well. Well, that for me is amazing. And I've had this plugin for a week, and once I use it more and get to know it, this is going to be one of my go-to reverbs, certainly. So do I recommend it? Well, yeah, you're getting 67,000 AIR Lyndhurst impulse responses in your DAW. For me, that is amazing in itself. But the sound that it creates, that really truly is the selling point. All that leaves me to say is thank you so much to Spitfire Audio for sending over the AIR Studios Reverb plugin so we can make this video. If you like what you heard, feel free to leave a like on the video, and of course drop us a comment. I think we're going to get quite a few comments about this one. Everyone is very precious about the reverbs they use. It's like having a doctor. My one is the best. I know the best. I'll recommend you the best. We all have our favourite plugins, and reverbs are a hot topic. I'm in a Facebook group where all we do is talk about nothing but reverbs. It's very, very fascinating, and it goes very, very deep, and people are very passionate about it. So I'll be very interested to see what people think about the AIR Studios Reverb plugin. And of course, we all produce or compose or use these music tools in a slightly different way. So I'm just scratching the surface here. I'm using presets in the plugin. However, as time goes by, I'm going to be using this a lot more, and I'm going to learn more about it and be able to dial in the sounds that I really am looking for. So yeah, any feedback is great feedback. And of course, please check out our other videos on the Sampleist channel on YouTube. We have lots of videos out there. I have to take the opportunity to thank our team as well. So we've got some wonderful people making content. I've been a little bit quieter than usual. Not going to go into it too much. Obviously to do with my eyes, which I've mentioned in other videos. And I just really want to thank my team for just keep creating wonderful videos for us, and these amazing perspectives and compositions, and they really are worth checking out. But of course, it means the world to me. So thank you. There we go. And of course, the best way you can thank us is by hitting that subscribe button. We don't have any kind of advertising deals or affiliate links. We want to make sure that the opinions that we have on our channel are our own. So there's no money involved. So the best way you can support us is subscribe to us on YouTube. That's going to help spread our videos and the word of the Sampleist, for want of a better term, across YouTube. So please, please, please do that if you haven't done so already. And of course, don't forget to jump into your studio, onto your laptop, or however you're doing it, and make some beautiful, wonderful music. Until next time, have a great day, and we will speak again soon.